Your soul and spirit fly into mystic. Let your soul and spirit fly into mystic. Into mystic. Into mystic. Into mystic.
And welcome back to Mystic Matters. We are the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Good evening, Tricia Walsh.
Good evening, Suzette.
You know, I ask you this every year, and I always say, so what's going on? And every time you answer, there's a lot going on.
There's always things going on.
So what's going on?
This coming weekend, we've got the Boys and Girls Club Mud Run, which will be at Fields of Fire, which definitely great family event and raises money for a great cause.
And do you know what time that is, or they can go on the website?
It's they are doing waves, so I would definitely recommend. All the information's on mysticchamber.org.
Great.
On our events calendar. Also, the Pirate Fest, Downtown Mystic, putting together a pirate festival.
And that's the first, right?
It's the first annual.
Oh, that's going to be.
And they are having pirates come in and do a loot and scavenger hunt, and I don't even, every day they add something new to it. So definitely worth coming down and supporting your local downtown businesses and having a great day with your family.
Right. And I just got to save the date just a couple of weeks ago for our annual dinner. Now, when is that?
That is December 5th at the Mystic Marriott. We're going with a old Hollywood theme.
I saw that. Very interesting.
Yes. So we will be soliciting people to buy a star on our Chamber Walk of Fame.
Okay.
You'll be getting your invitations for that shortly.
The Chamber Walk of Fame. Okay. And is there a dress code for that evening, or is
fabulous?
It just...
Fabulous.
More information coming your way in the next couple of Mystic Matters, but fabulous, I think, is a great way to describe the wardrobe for that evening. So there's probably that Marilyn Monroe sort of
Absolutely.
look. Okay.
We'll be going blonde.
Okay. And stay tuned for that as well, because I'd just love to see that. But some new and exciting things happening.
Definitely. Always.
That's great.
Things constantly coming up, so definitely just keep your eye on our events calendar, and we always are posting not just our own events, but what's happening in the community.
So, you know, Tricia, this evening, we have a wonderful, wonderful guest this evening, but she is not new to Mystic Matters. And I don't know how many times she's been on Mystic Matters, but every time she comes on, always something new and exciting that she has to report, and always wakes us up too to some of the events, and she's just a person with so much information, and I'd like to reintroduce Kathleen O'Byrne from the Community Coalition for Children. Welcome back, Kathleen.
Thank you, Suzette.
Well, I didn't know how to introduce her. I had to make it exciting again, because she's always
well, this is my first time on the
yes!
show with Kathleen,
so we have a lot to report.
Always something new.
So, Kathleen, what are you talking about this evening?
Well, I'm talking about Community Coalition for Children.
Okay.
We're coming up on our annual 2-program event. It's usually the third Wednesday in October, so it's the 21st, at the Guard. And the program is actually at 7 o'clock with Dr. David Katz from Yale.
We'll have to hear more about him.
We're going to hear more about him.
Yeah.
But we're hoping folks will come early, because we have a free reception and health fair. And so we're having a number of folks who are in the business of health in one way or another to be in the lobby and be willing to give out information. And we're also having some wonderful food served up by perhaps Fiddleheads of New London, as well as the culinary students in New London High School and Norwich Free Academy.
Wow.
Yeah, the kids love doing it. They get to pass the food, and this is a chance to really think about what is healthy food for early evening before an event when you don't want people to fall asleep. Want to get enough food in that's healthy.
Actually, so no mac and cheese.
No mac and cheese that evening, no.
Okay, so that doesn't sit right here.
Vegetables, that kind of thing. That sounds...
Yes, probably very creative, because they usually do a beautiful job.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So now, maybe, especially because it's my first time with you on the show, could you explain a little bit more about what is Community Coalition for Children?
What is Community Coalition? Community Coalition has actually been around since 1996. And Tricia, the interesting thing is it was formed around a kitchen table in Norwich. A bunch of moms were saying, oh, you know, don't you wish you had Adele Faber living next door? And she was the how to talk so your kids will listen and how to listen so your kids will talk lady. And the more they got thinking about that and giggling about it, they thought, you know, we could do that. And so they hired her to come and talk in 1996.
Wow.
Which is, you know, it's hard to believe we've been at this for all the years since. And each year we bring in somebody who is noteworthy and talking about ways that families and educators can really make a difference with our kids and students. Interestingly enough, over those years, we have returned to the topic of bullying 9 different times.
Yes.
In one way or another. And gee, you've just picked up the paper again and seen that
another suicide.
Another young woman, teenager, bullied by the girls in school. And so this continues to go on. But this year we are moving away from bullying, and we're looking at childhood nutrition and exercise and a dose of just healthy emotional living. Dr. Katz has a wonderful book. It's called Stealth Health. He's very clever with words. I mean, he's fun to read. And he talks about all the little ways that you can do something with your family or in your classroom or with your Girl Scout troop or your football team, your little league, you know, anywhere where you've got adults and kids kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
And as I had mentioned to you earlier, he has 5 children of his own, so he has his own little team going there.
Right.
And he has reality check there daily, you know, about whether
no
you
choice.
really can entice kids to eat the kinds of things that he's suggesting. And what I like about it is that the book we're using, which Suzette kind of said, wow, this is just a tome. It is, and we're going to have them available at the Guard when we have our event for all of $10.
It's like a Bible.
It is a Bible.
Yeah, for healthy living.
And what the trick is that he asks you to read maybe 3 little ideas a week. And that as a family, you decide, we'd like to try these 3 things. And at the end of the week, you all decide, yeah, that was a pretty good one, we'll keep that one. That one, not so much, you know. And then you pick 3 more, but you're keeping the ones cumulatively that you liked, and they are just becoming part of the way that you live. And we were laughing about it as part of the Community Coalition for Children, and saying, so what are the things that you've read that, you know, really intrigued you? And I said, well, I had never known, and I've been around for a while, I had
Not too
never
long,
known that I was supposed to brush my tongue when I brushed my teeth. And you see, you knew that.
I did.
Tricia, did you know that?
I did. Well, now they make the fancy toothbrushes with the special tongue thing.
Yeah.
Well, you see, even though I have an electric toothbrush, somehow I had missed that
But
instruction.
I'm going to tell you, some people do not know that. I will tell you.
Well, my dental hygienist was horrified that I didn't know it. Well, I confessed. And she said, and not only your tongue, Kathleen, but you're supposed to be doing the roof of your mouth as well.
Right.
And evidently, the optimum time for this to happen is in the morning. One might have thought maybe at night, but he says no, in the morning, because that's the time when all this stuff is collected overnight.
Right.
And evidently our mouth is one of the filthiest places in our body. And so it's really important to do that. And he says to try to do it for up to a minute.
Right.
I must say I find my patience kind of lagging at probably about 30 seconds, so I'm working on that.
But I have to tell you, I find myself trying to talk to my husband Chuck at the same time, and he's what? Why do you know? Because
double tasking.
Yeah. Well, and I also don't have the patience, so I try to get things done all at once. But anyways,
but that's the sort of thing that at the end of the week you would kind of hope the family would say, you know, that's a really good habit, and we should do that. And along that same dental line, I can remember reading a couple of years ago that if I flossed every day, and I had never flossed every day, maybe every other day if I was really lucky, that I would add 2 years to my lifetime.
now I didn't know that.
And I thought, you know, at my age, anything you could do to add 2 years to your lifestyle.
Overt is starting to floss pretty regularly.
Yeah, wow, I'm really there every day.
Oh, that's great.
So it's
My
just,
dentist would love that.
yeah, your dentist will love that. And another one that we've really had an awfully good time with, actually, Dr. Katz does address it, but not quite in the way that I'm going to share with you. When I was a little kid, maybe about 5 years old, all of a sudden I had spots all over my gums and my tongue. And my mother was just frantic. She was a home economist, you know, one who had been trained to do all the right things in the household. And here's her eldest daughter with spots all over, and on my teeth. And of course, we made a beeline for the dentist, and he said, "Oh, Mrs. Parker, not to worry. All you need to do is feed her some apricots." So of course, I'm sure she went home, and we probably did canned apricots, because this would have been World War II, or soon thereafter, and so that's probably what happened. But Dr. Katz says dried apricots daily as a snack, and maybe just even one, because there's potassium in it. And when you dry a fruit, it condenses the benefits even further, so that you're getting more. And of course, they're easy to keep because they come in a little pouch.
And they stay forever.
And they stay forever. So when my black lab started getting black gums, I started cutting up apricots once a day, an apricot into 5 little pieces so he won't choke on it. And he has the brightest, pinkest gums you'd ever like to see.
You're kidding.
Wow.
Oh.
You know what we're
magic.
doing right after the show. Because of the show.
But it's just little things like that that, you know,
that would make a difference in your health. Like just the adding on the 2 years, Tricia, to your life by flossing is just really, wow.
Another thing that he's really big about, he says that if you can get fresh vegetables, that's optimum. And I have a little piece here that came out actually in a gardener's catalog saying that 1 out of 6 Americans needs food assistance, and yet there is little fresh produce at food pantries. And we know that in the local area here, Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center and Groton Social Services, and also over in New London, and Gemma Moran, that they are working very hard on having people pledge a certain amount of produce from their gardens. And it's kind of hard to guess how much you're going to actually be able to give. But I found that at least once a week I take an egg carton and put all of mixed little cherry tomatoes in there and take them into the food pantry. And yes, that's only a dozen, but they are so cute and they travel so well. And the folks always say, oh, those are out of here in a flash because they're easy to take home. And that way you're recycling your egg carton, so you're being a good camper. And the other thing that it says is that the portion of food produced in the United States that's thrown away uneaten each year is 1/3. That we are a truly wasteful nation. So the idea that you would try to eat fresh if you could, understanding that that's not always possible. He says number 2, and in fact sometimes number 1, are the frozen vegetables, because they are frozen when they are optimum condition. and they're easy to keep and use. You pour out only as many as you really want. So there are lots of advantages to that. But if you are eating canned vegetables, and many of us do, he says, and fruits, make sure that you rinse, put it in a sieve and rinse it with cold water, because it's the liquid in the can that's going to tend to have the bad elements in it. It's going to have too much sugar. It's going to have
salt.
It's going to have
Yeah.
and salt
Yeah.
and preservatives of all kinds. So that if you rinse those ingredients first, and then if you're going to go on and cook the vegetables or warm them up, just do that in tap water. And he says, for example, that he would recommend that people eat some form of bean daily. Now, there are many ethnic groups for whom that is a very attractive option. And some of us could learn to do that. I love black beans.
Yes, I do too.
You know,
Yeah.
Mexican food
Yeah.
could be my middle name
Yeah.
if you allowed it.
Yeah.
But he says, just think about it. You could put a few black beans in your eggs in the morning and have a little salsa on that, and you've got huevos rancheros right at home.
What about the sour cream? Can you add that on too?
Well, you could. You could.
Yes, I was explaining something to myself. Well, could we just add a little bit there, here and there, and it'd be really, really
Dairy, there you go. You're adding dairy.
You know, I noticed,
Skim,
Kathleen.
skim.
I noticed you were quoting quite a bit from his books, from his book,
Yes.
and they are all things that seem just to make sense, but we really don't do, and they're very simple. These are simple
point.
recommendations. You know, we don't all have to be gourmet cooks, or they're just very simple, and it just will add to that healthy living that you're talking about.
Well, and you know, Suzette, in his book called The Way to Eat, which really is more for adults, but he talks about, and I can't tell you how thrilled I was to hear him saying this, that often a good solution for very young infants, once they're beyond that original breastfeeding stage, would be to go to skim milk. Yes, ma'am. That
This might be something
Yes.
you need to share with your sister.
well,
I mean,
the,
I just
the
really
truth
with the
is that if an infant builds all those fat cells young,
Yeah,
it's very difficult through a lifetime
to get it off.
to get it off because it becomes built in very young. And we were actually in Hawaii when our number 2 was born, Heather. Little chunky as she arrived, and I've got to admit to you that after about 6 weeks of trying to heat up formula, because that's what we had to do in those days, in the heat of Hawaii, I just thought, you know what? The milk that comes straight from the supermarket is sterile and cool, and how much more interesting. So when I went back for the checkup with the doctor, I said, I have to confess that this is what I've been doing. And he said, good for you.
Wow.
Because, everybody is so careful, falling over themselves, saying, oh, you have to
Yeah.
do this and this and this and this for this period of time. When in actuality, with guidance
Right.
from your visiting nurse or your pediatrician or
Right.
whoever, it might be a lot wiser to be using foods that are not building in.
But don't you, if there's
Cells for a lifetime.
you have the fat content, but then you have the bone content,
The calcium.
the calcium
You need-
side
well,
of it.
you've
So
got
it's
the calcium.
so it is a balance.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, I tell you, so this is coming up October 21st at 7 o'clock. But the
the
focus
Guard,
at
yeah.
the Guard is healthy kids and healthy community. So it starts with the parents, right? It starts with the family,
Absolutely.
teaching the kids. And then these kids grow up to be healthy adults.
One hopes.
Well, yes. And I
right.
think that's his focus that evening,
That
correct?
Absolutely, that you're building in habits for a lifetime. Now, the fun thing is that on Tuesday morning, he will work with hundreds of local middle school and high school students who come in from the regional middle schools and high schools. And any adults who are available from 9:30 to 12:30 on Tuesday morning, the 22nd, are indeed welcome to come. And, you know, if people, for example, who could get away from a child care setting for a couple of hours and hear him talk, either Monday night and or Tuesday morning, or folks who are in the field of nutrition for school systems. I mean, this would be ideal. He's going to work with the students on a program that we're calling Food Forensics, because we want to empower the teenagers to know exactly what it is that they're eating and influence the choices in their families now, and of course their families for the future. And basically saying that if you understand what you're reading on the content list, that then you're in control. You're making the choice of what you're eating. It's not just something that's coming at you without a choice. And so they in turn can be real sources of education for their own families, because many families have not come from extended families that have necessarily known what good nutrition could be.
Right.
Or who are really trying to stretch their budget. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately,
it's easy to go out and get a pizza.
Yes, and
you know,
he would say to you that that's actually okay if you're going to do a thin crust and you're going to have lots of veggies on it. But maybe hold back on the number of added cheeses or the added meats that are on top. That a Supreme, or whatever the name might be for it,
darn,
is really a wonderful answer.
Yeah. You know, I have a question though. Is it too late for us adults?
No.
Okay. Because, you know, you see so many people, you know, start, I mean, this is kind of getting off track a little bit, but starting on certain diets and then healthy living and then going back. So it's never too late. We haven't ruined our system. We haven't ruined, you know, we can go back. Because I happen to like pizza. Okay, just so everybody knows. But what I'm saying is in moderation too. So adults can be taught this as well.
Well, you know, I was playing around with diet as a 4-letter word. Mm-hmm. Diet really means the food that you eat every day. But we get it all confused with dieting, which is the negative piece. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like the word menu better. That's another 4-letter word. But menu somehow has the sense of
it sounds good.
Choice. Mm-hmm. Well, the menu on your computer, the menu in a restaurant. You get to choose what you're eating. And I don't think he believes that in any given family that every kid gets to choose every meal, you know.
Right.
That there is going to be a standard menu for the evening, so to speak, but that there is input from all the members of the family, and learn to taste things that are new, but not turn it into a fight about having to eat all of your green beans before you get to have whatever. Just keep introducing some new things that are healthy things and modeling it. And he would say, don't beat yourself up. If you go to a smorgasbord or a buffet, which he says are just killers.
Right.
Because
I'm not real sure.
More choice you have,
well, and also the
more likely
cleanliness of something.
Well,
you know,
or
that
even if you think about our events that we tend
right.
to, networking events where they constantly have a platter of this or that in your
right.
face.
And you're going, yeah.
You bite of this, bite of that.
By the end of the evening, you have to think in your head, how many of those did I have? You know, what is it going to do for me tomorrow? But I guess you start all over again, you know, with the healthy.
And my mom, the home economist, had a good solution for that, because she and my dad were with NATO in Europe, and there would often be 3 cocktail parties in an evening.
Wow.
And she was having to speak in a language that wasn't her own, so it was desirable not to drink too much.
And, I think our lives
and yeah, it does sound like your lives.
Well, it does. You said 3 cocktail parties in the evening. I'm thinking Tricia and I probably, okay.
Yeah. But her trick was to drink a full glass of milk before she went.
Oh.
So that you've coated your stomach with a good nutrient before you go. And then she would literally count the number of things that she was consuming. She had a max, so that if somebody has now nibbled 5 of those wonderful trays, that then the little bell goes off and says, well, I can have one more, so I might be more selective. And she's the same woman who used to count out the number of peanuts we could have before dinner. 10.
I wish I could have
to
met
be
this,
precise.
this woman. Well, you know, she was a woman before her time.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Yes,
think
she
about
was. Yes, she was.
and all of you were turned out healthy.
Well, and she was
Yeah.
always slender because she was building in habits. And so now when you read that it would be good to snack, and Dr. Katz does talk about snacking. He said it's really the kiss of death to keep holding off till whatever meal it is, because then you tend to overeat. And that you'd probably be better off, like kids coming home after school, if there were an apricot then and a fig Newton or
An apple cut
or
up.
an apple
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
up or something crunchy like a carrot, maybe get to scrape the whole long carrot and then have fun with it.
Yeah. Does he also talk about portion?
Yes.
Okay.
And part of that is just using smaller plates. Mick and I use a small, sort of a salad plate
For a
both,
dinner plate.
Well, for breakfast and lunch.
Okay.
And then at dinner, our dinner plates are actually smaller than the usual dinner plates. And you just have a sense that whatever we're eating has really filled up that plate.
Wow.
And we don't go back.
And one trick I learned is if you go out to eat, ask for a to-go container when you place your order, and then cut it in half and put it the half in there. So it's not
Great
even.
idea.
I mean, because even a half of a meal at a restaurant is sometimes way too much. So if you already take it off your plate, you're not even thinking about
That's
it.
a great idea.
Although usually my husband just eats it.
Does he also talk about what meal is most important? Like, is the breakfast? And I'm asking this question because I'm not a dinner time person, because that just seems, if you eat a halfway decent dinner, I can't go to bed. But I'd rather have a bigger breakfast, or lunch actually is my biggest. That's when I go out with you, Tricia, and you don't have the same type of lunch that I want you to have. You know what I mean? Because that's my
I
enjoyable
don't get
time.
to go sleep after lunch, so.
But does he talk about which meal is most
Well,
important, or is that?
Of course, it's also a lifestyle issue. If you have the luxury of going out for lunch, no. All
Live
kidding
it like a
aside, there are a lot of people who don't have
Yeah, they
that,
have that.
and so they're
Right.
better off taking. And he would say, eat only what you have brought from home.
Okay.
That way you are packing fruits, you are packing vegetables, you are packing a granola bar, you are packing something that you know is healthy, and then the smell of popcorn being popped in the office microwave is not going to just drive you
Right.
crazy. And again, he would say snack. I can tell you at 4 o'clock in the Pentagon, you used to smell Russian tea, which has that wonderful sort of cinnamon
Yes.
smell.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you could smell it just permeating everywhere. And then you could also smell the popcorn, and that was not good. That was tough. But he would say that if, for example, you are among the generation that is maybe retired at this point, that eating a larger meal at noontime and a smaller meal in the evening would be ideal. Breakfast, most people believe that it's really important to have something, and that's why so many of the school programs now include breakfast.
Right.
And that's probably partially true because maybe there hasn't been
A breakfast.
dinner
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the night before.
Yeah.
So there might have been a very long period of time since there was food at school the day before. And we were talking earlier about the fact that many of the local school systems, if they have a percentage of students with free and reduced lunch, then the federal government has passed legislation to offer that to all the students in the school, and it's actually cost saving because then they're not handling money and having to spend money handling money.
Right.
They're just spending the money on the food.
And everybody gets the same.
Everybody gets the same. There's no stigma attached.
Right. Well, Kathleen,
We could go on and
We
on.
could go,
I know.
every time she comes, I mean, I'm just getting engrossed with what she has to say, and Tricia, and I know you're enjoying it as well. But we have to wrap it up. It's the Community Coalition for Children, Feet and Forks, Healthy Kids, Healthy Community by Dr. David L. Katz, and that's Monday evening, October 21st at 7 p.m. So, but before that, we have a 6 p.m. health fair and reception. So, at the Guard Center, for more information, just give us your website.
It's www.communitycoalitionforchildren.org.
Okay. Kathleen O'Byrne, thank you so much for being on the show, and I know you're going to be back with us next year or whatever endeavor you have coming up. We are Mystic Matters, the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Good evening.
Your soul and spirit fly into mystic. Let your soul and spirit fly into mystic, into mystic, into mystic.